Long ago, in a forgotten corner of East Africa, a young woman named Zena gave birth to twin daughters. She was just 19, scared and alone. Her family had rejected her for having children out of marriage. In her village, it was seen as a deep shame. Holding the tiny crying babies in her trembling arms, Zena felt trapped. The weight of fear crushed her heart. No food, no roof, no help. Desperation pushed her to a choice she would regret for the rest of her life. On a humid afternoon, with tears streaming down her dusty cheeks, Zena placed her twin daughters into a large rusted trash can behind the village market. She whispered, "I'm sorry," and ran away into the crowd, never looking back. Hours passed. Flies buzzed around. People walked by, ignoring the soft, weak cries coming from the trash. Then came Miriam. Miriam was a poor woman who sold roasted maize by the roadside. She heard the faint sounds while packing up for the day. Curious and concerned, she followed the noise, pushing aside dirty sacks and broken wood until she saw them. Two tiny baby girls, wrapped in a torn, blood-stained cloth. Miriam gasped, covering her mouth with her hands. She looked around, but no one seemed to care. Without thinking twice, she lifted both babies into her arms. "God has sent you to me," she whispered, tears rolling down her face. She named them Amani and Amara, peace and grace. Life was not easy for Miriam. She lived in a one-room mud hut on the edge of the village. She barely made enough money to eat 2 meals a day. But she raised the girls with all the love she had. The twins grew up barefoot, running in dusty streets, wearing old patched-up clothes. They learned early how to sell maize, how to smile to customers even when their stomachs growled with hunger. At night, Miriam told them stories under the stars, tales of courage, of great queens who rose from nothing, and of the power hidden inside every human soul. Amani, the elder by just 3 minutes, was bold and fiery. Amara, quieter, had sharp, clever eyes. Together they were inseparable, like two sides of one heart. But life in the village was cruel. The other children mocked them. "Trash babies," they'd shout, "thrown away like garbage." Each insult stabbed deeper into their hearts, but instead of breaking them, it fueled a fire inside. One evening, sitting outside their hut, Amani said, "Sister, one day we will rise so high they will have to look up to us." Amara nodded silently, her eyes shining with a silent promise. And so their journey began. A journey from trash to treasure, from dust to diamonds. Little did the world know the two girls left to rot in a trash can would one day build an empire that would shake the world. Growing up, Amani and Amara lived in a world full of broken dreams. Their little village, called Makuzi, was a place where hope seemed like a luxury only the rich could afford. Every morning before sunrise, the twins helped Miriam roast maize by the roadside. They laughed together, worked together, and cried together when they had no customers. At school, it was no easier. Other kids came in clean uniforms and shiny shoes. Amani and Amara came barefoot, wearing torn hand-me-down dresses, stitched and restitched by Miriam's rough hands. The teachers often looked down on them too. "Those trash babies," they whispered behind their backs, thinking the twins couldn't hear. But the twins heard. Oh, they heard everything. Instead of giving up, they made a secret vow under the old baobab tree outside their school. Amani said, "One day we'll own shoes so shiny the sun will reflect off them." Amara added, "And we'll make sure every child like us has a chance to dream too." Dreams became their food. Hope became their water. When they were 10 years old, they started helping Miriam sell more than just maize. They made small beaded bracelets from colorful seeds they found in the forest. They painted them with crushed berries for colors and sold them to tourists who sometimes passed through the village. Their little business began to grow. Some days they earned enough to buy a fresh loaf of bread instead of the dry ones they usually ate. Other days they earned nothing. But each success, no matter how small, planted a stronger seed inside them. We can do this. One afternoon, a tall tourist from South Africa bought 10 bracelets and said, "You girls have a gift. Never stop." Those simple words lit a fire inside them that would never die. But life wasn't kind for too long. One rainy season, Miriam fell sick. She coughed day and night, her body weak and trembling. The village doctor said it was pneumonia, but treatment was too expensive. Amani and Amara took turns sitting by her side. telling her stories like she used to tell them. They promised her that once they grew up, they would make her proud. They would build something so big that even the president would hear their names. Miriam smiled weakly. "My sweet girls," she whispered, "you are already my pride." Then one cold night, as the rain hammered the tin roof of their hut, Miriam closed her eyes forever. The twins were left alone in the world at just 12 years old. No family, no money, no roof, no one to fight for them. The village elders talked about sending them to an orphanage, but the twins refused. They clung to each other, determined to survive the same way Miriam had taught them. With grit, courage, and the belief that they were more than the world said they were. They moved into an abandoned storehouse near the market. It leaked when it rained and baked them when the sun burned hot, but it was their castle. Every day after school, they sold bracelets, roasted maize, and even washed clothes for the richer families to earn a few coins. They made a small name for themselves. Not just trash babies anymore, but the twins with the magic hands. Still, life remained tough. One evening, as they counted their tiny earnings, Amani clenched her fists and said, "We can't live like this forever, Amara. We need something bigger." Amara, always the thinker, nodded slowly. "We need a real plan, a way out." That night, they stayed awake dreaming and planning, scribbling ideas on scraps of old newspaper. They dreamed of a store of their own, full of handmade jewelry, clothes, art, everything African, everything beautiful. But dreams were cheap, money was not. Still, the twins were not the type to give up. They didn't know it yet, but their real journey, the journey from street sellers to billionaires, was just beginning. At just 13 years old, Amani and Amara were already warriors in a silent battle against poverty. The small African market where they worked was full of noise. Shouting vendors, laughing children, tired mothers bargaining for food. But in the middle of all that chaos, the twins stood side by side, focused, determined. Their bracelets started gaining attention. Tourists would buy one, then come back asking for more. One day, a lady from Nairobi, who ran a small boutique, offered to buy their pieces in bulk. It was a small order, just 20 bracelets. But for the twins, it felt like the first step onto a real staircase leading somewhere better. Using the money, they bought more supplies, colorful strings, tiny shells, bright beads. They made necklaces, earrings, anklets, anything their imaginations could create. Slowly, their small table at the market became a full stall. Amani worked on attracting customers with her bright energy and bold voice, while Amara crafted delicate pieces with fast, clever fingers. Together, they were unstoppable. But where there is light, there is always shadow. Jealousy grew among the other market sellers. Some older women started whispering that the twins used witchcraft to charm tourists. Some spread rumors that the girls would bring bad luck. One night, when the twins returned to their stall, they found it destroyed. Their handmade jewelry scattered in the mud, beads crushed under careless feet. Amani fell to her knees, her heart breaking. Amara stood frozen, staring at the wreckage. For a long time, neither spoke. Finally, Amani whispered, "They want to break us." Amara clenched her fists. "Then we show them they can't." They worked all night, cleaning, saving what little they could. And by sunrise, they set up a tiny table again, smaller than before, but still standing. The villagers watched, surprised. The twins smiled as if nothing had happened. Their resilience became their shield. At 16, an even bigger opportunity knocked. A group of foreign investors visited their village looking for local crafts for a new online store. The twins' jewelry caught their eye. They offered the girls a small deal, a chance to sell internationally. It wasn't a fortune. In fact, it was barely enough to survive. But it was a seed, a small seed with the power to grow into something much bigger. There was just one problem. The investors needed the girls to have an official business license. The twins had no money for legal papers, no formal IDs, no family name to back them up. They were nobodies on paper. Frustrated but not defeated, they decided to fix it themselves. Amani and Amara spent months chasing down officials, signing forms, begging for help. Some laughed at them, some ignored them. Some demanded bribes they couldn't afford. At times it felt hopeless. But they remembered Miriam's words. You have more power than they can ever imagine. They kept pushing. Finally, after almost a year of struggle, two teenage girls born in a trash can registered their first business, Twins of Grace Artworks. It was the first time they saw their names written officially, not as orphans, not as trash babies, but as founders. The feeling was electric. The feeling was addictive, and it was only the beginning. By the time Amani and Amara turned 21, Twins of Grace Artworks had grown bigger than anyone in Makuzi village could have ever imagined. Their designs, necklaces with colorful beads, bracelets woven with village stories, earrings shaped like African maps, had started appearing in small shops across Kenya, Uganda, and even Ghana. Every time they shipped a new order, every time a happy customer sent a smiling photo wearing their art, the twins felt like a little piece of their old pain was being healed. But success came with its own new problems. Bigger orders meant bigger expenses. They needed better tools, a real workspace, workers to help them. Their little stall near the market was no longer enough. And then came the biggest shock of all. A famous African-American singer wore their jewelry at a music awards show in Los Angeles and tagged their tiny brand in an Instagram post. Overnight, their small online store exploded with orders. Emails flooded in. Journalists wanted interviews. Fashion bloggers called them the young queens of African artistry. It felt like a dream, but deep inside, something still felt missing. One evening after a long day at their small rented workshop, Amara sat by the window staring at the stars. She said quietly, "Amani, have you ever thought about where we come from? Our real mother?" Amani, lying on the old couch, opened her eyes. Why should I care about someone who threw us away? But Amara's heart felt different. I just wonder, why? The old pain returned, but this time, it was mixed with curiosity. They decided to search for answers. Finding the truth was not easy. They asked around the village, talking to old market women, retired midwives, and elders who remembered two babies found in the trash long ago. Piece by piece, they stitched together a story. A woman named Zina, once a beautiful young girl full of dreams, had disappeared from the village after giving birth to twins. She had been poor, rejected, alone. Some said she ran to Nairobi. Others said she married a rich businessman. Some said she died. The truth was messy, scattered like broken glass. But one old man gave them a clue. I heard she works in the city now, cleaning houses, poor, still poor. It was not the story the twins had imagined. Their mother had not found happiness. She had not built a new life. She was still struggling, still broken. The thought was heavy. They spent weeks thinking about what to do. Should they search for her? Should they forgive her? Or should they forget her forever? Meanwhile, their business exploded even more. They opened a real store, a beautiful, bright place filled with colors, music, and laughter. Twins of Grace became a symbol of hope, of rising above, of beauty born from pain. At the grand opening, people traveled from far away to see the girls who had once been called trash babies, now queens in their own right. A journalist asked Amani, "What is your biggest dream now?" She smiled and said, "Our dream is bigger than us. We want to build an empire, not for ourselves, but for every girl who has ever been told she's not enough." The crowd cheered, and somewhere deep inside, Amani and Amara knew. Their story was not just about escape, it was about purpose. They were building a future, not just for themselves, but for the forgotten, the broken, the thrown away. Months passed after the grand opening. Twins of Grace became more than just a brand. It became a movement. Young African girls sent letters and videos, thanking Amani and Amara for inspiring them to believe in their dreams. Money started pouring in. Partnerships with fashion giants, deals with international celebrities, global shipping, charity programs for orphaned children across Africa. By the time they turned 30, Twins of Grace had crossed $1 billion valuation, something even the wildest dreams of their childhood couldn't imagine. But despite the fame, the money, the awards, one thing still sat heavy in their hearts: their mother. One evening, after a long board meeting in Nairobi, Amani stood on the balcony of their new headquarters, staring at the city lights. Amara joined her. "Are you still thinking about her?" Amara asked softly. Amani nodded. "I don't know if I want to forgive her, but I think I need to see her, for myself." Amara took her hand. "Then let's go." They found her easily now. Zina was working as a cleaner in a small hotel on the outskirts of Nairobi. A tired woman with graying hair, bent shoulders, and eyes that spoke of old silent pain. When the twins entered the hotel lobby, Zina didn't recognize them at first. Why would she? The last time she saw them, they were helpless newborns left in the cold. Amani approached first. "Zina?" she asked. Zina turned, confused. "Yes. We are Amani and Amara," Amara said, her voice steady. "Your daughters." For a moment, silence swallowed the room. Zina's broom fell from her hands. Her face turned pale. She stumbled backward, clutching her chest. Tears filled her tired eyes. I thought you had died," she whispered. I was cursed." The twins said nothing. Zina sank onto a bench, sobbing. "I was young. I was stupid. I was scared. I had no one. I thought if I left you there, someone better would find you." Amani felt her heart pounding. Years of pain, anger, questions, all crashing inside her. But when she looked at the broken woman before her, she didn't see a monster. She saw fear, regret, and a mirror of her own struggles. Without a word, Amara sat beside Zina and held her hand. Amani joined them. For a long time, the three women sat there. No shouting, no blaming, just the silent, raw truth between them. Forgiveness wasn't given in words. It was given in that moment, in the way the twins chose not to walk away. Later, they arranged a small apartment for Zina. Nothing flashy, but safe, clean, and warm. They made sure she never had to work again. They didn't invite her into the spotlight. They didn't plaster her story over the internet. They gave her dignity, quietly, respectfully. Zina spent her last years living peacefully, watching her daughters build a world from the ashes she left behind. As for Amani and Amara, they expanded Twins of Grace into a giant empire. Art, fashion, education, charity. They never forgot their roots. They returned often to Makuzi village, building schools, creating programs for orphaned and abandoned children. They made sure no other trash baby would ever feel alone or unwanted. And every time they stood on a stage or signed a deal or opened a new store, they remembered they were not broken, they were not cursed, they were destined. From the trash can to the throne, they were queens, not in name but in spirit. And their story would inspire the world for generations to come.